His Royal Highness Prince Jaime de Bourbon Parme, member of the Spanish and Dutch royal families, is an expert on conflict prevention. He's worked in several conflict areas, notably in the Balkans, Iraq and Afghanistan. Many of his travels have taken him to Africa.
I'm on my way to Africa. Every time I go there, I wonder why such a rich continent, that should be blessed with its abundance in natural resources, does not manage to escape poverty, and is instead repeatedly hit by horrible wars.
The whole war, nothing to do with tribal differences. It was all about diamonds.
The same people who used to work in the diamond area before the war, and some of them, there are even people who were deported by the government, and they are back.
Als je je vinger in de grond steekt, dan haal je diamanten, goud, kobalt, coltraan, you name it, haal je eruit. En daar gaat de deal om.
What role do we play? Natural resources from Africa end up in products we buy in our stores.
Every single penny you pay to buy a furniture made out of wood, to buy a diamond, to buy a gold ring, that penny is going to a general or a warlord who is involved with genocide in this part of the world.
Money, money, money,
War is business. I'm going to look for the people who play a role in these wars in Africa, specifically in Liberia, Sierra Leone and Congo.
Money, 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 palava, money, palava.
Only 3 years ago, in Monrovia, the capital of Liberia, rebels fought heavily on this bridge.
Money, money, money.
Supporters of President Charles Taylor clashed with rival rebel groups. In August 2003, Charles Taylor went into exile in Nigeria, and finally, 15 years of war came to an end. In March 2006, this notorious dictator was finally arrested and now has to stand trial for his war crimes. There are also people who are proud of their role during the war. For instance, Minister of Defense Daniel Shee, who was once Taylor's right-hand man. Under his leadership, doped-up child soldiers fought for Taylor. With a Kalashnikov rifle in hand, he fought alongside them and undoubtedly participated in the killing. But this does not seem to bother him.
Can I make it?
No, the nail went into the wall a little bit.
What was your function during the war? What was your title?
I was the Minister of National Defense. I had the statutory responsibility of trying to galvanize support for the army, encourage the men to fight under some tough conditions. There were many times when I spent days at the front lines myself. I think I'm the only Minister of Defense on the records internationally who went to a battlefront. I actually take part in the war. Most defense ministers would stay in the office. My role was a little different.
You were part of the Marines, U.S. Marines, weren't you?
No, I'm not. I studied with the U.S. Navy.
Okay, U.S. Navy.
Okay, Great Lakes Naval Base specifically. I've never been in the Marines. Let's get the record straight.
Why did you give up a good job like that to fight?
No, I did not. My government, the Liberian government, spent some money to train me and other Liberians at different bases in America. Actually, we have gone to acquire some training to come back and help our country. And basically, I'm doing just, I think in this newfound capacity as Minister of Defense, that money was not spent It was spent for something. At least I'm playing a role.
And then you came to Liberia and you fought with Taylor, with the president.
Yes.
What role did you play alongside Taylor?
Basically, I play a role, a patriotic role. Things were not as rosy as we wanted them, but we had a situation in the country that needed individuals of my type in order to come to the rescue. We built a front line around this side of the bridge, and we decided, look, if you want to take us, you got to cross these two bridges. Come and get us. But it went well.
The Civil War only ended a couple of years ago. All former rebel factions are now part of the transitional government. The city still doesn't have electricity, and generators are only for those who can afford them. In Monrovia, poverty is rampant. But apparently there was enough money to cover the expenses of war. Where did this money come from? The Liberian lawyer Alfred Brownell was in Monrovia throughout the war. He barely managed to survive. What does he think?
The rebel soldiers is being paid by the resources of this country. You know, these multinational companies, we don't know where they come from. Is it because of the tax they pay to other countries? So we don't know, but clearly I will tell you that the real price is being paid by the poor Liberians. The timber, the diamond, and the gold in Holland is being bought by citizens in Europe. If you went to your living room and you sat in a very beautiful furniture, remember that you are feeling civil war in Liberia. If your fiance gave you a diamond ring and you're happy about that and you went on a holiday and a vacation, remember that an innocent Liberian, an innocent Sierra Leonean, or an innocent Zairian is dying because of that. Every single penny you pay to buy a furniture made out of wood, to buy a diamond, to buy a gold ring, that penny is going to a general or a warlord who is involved with widespread human rights abuses, who is involved in massacre, and who's also creating genocide in this part of the world.
I do.
With big glass jars, they fill the tank of the car. Once it's full, we head for Buchanan, the main wood export harbor of the Oriental Timber Company. The Dutchman Guus Kouwenhoven was director of this company. Kouwenhoven stood trial in the Netherlands for the illegal export of wood in exchange for weapons, for the notorious dictator Charles Taylor. This business took place in this harbor. The United Nations has imposed an embargo on timber exports. Therefore, the harbor has been completely shut down. The security employees of the Oriental Timber Company were used as soldiers by President Taylor during the war.
No, the problem is us, we were the OTC security, and we the one they used to take off from here and carry all lofa to go for it. When you refuse, they fire you. Like our security boss, which will control the lofa front line. So now you can come Buchanan, 25 OTC security in the chapel. You go, when you refuse and not go in, they fire you. We lose more than 20-50 men in Lofa. OTC security die in Lofa.
How did they die? How did they die?
In a battle, true fighting.
Were you fighting?
Yes. Our OTC security, all OTC security went Lofa to fight. It was full, it was compulsory. You go to fire, you leave the job.
I was OTC security. My boss was Rodendo. He employed me, as I said. Any other security for OT was only employed by Rodendo. Rodendo was a old boss for the security directed by the president, Charles Taylor. So he was a overall general, both on the front line and both with the concession area. Yes. The ship used to bring the arm in the container here, and the offload it right here, and then trailer carry the container in Monrovia. Yes. Yes, trailer.
After the ceasefire in Liberia, the United Nations implemented an embargo on the export of timber and diamonds and on the import of weapons. This was necessary to prevent war from breaking out once again. UN soldiers now inspect the harbor in Monrovia.
How long are you still going to do this kind of work?
Tommy Garnett, a United Nations expert, oversees if the embargo is working.
Yes.
Does the embargo hold?
Well, depends on which embargo you're talking about, because there's the embargo on arms, there's the embargo on diamond exports, there's the embargo on timber exports, and there's assets freeze. I think, generally speaking, the embargo has held on the export of timber because we know that there haven't been any significant shipments of timber. You know, timber is something you can't hide. So, although there have been isolated reports of one truck seen crossing here or there, but nothing significant to write home about. So, largely speaking, the embargo on export of round logs has held. We are in a situation where everything is tense. The peace is holding largely, but it feels like it's still fragile peace. And if we are looking at finding durable solutions, then we have to get to the heart of the matter, and that includes, being sort of maintaining control, especially over those people that had significant power to create such havoc.
A new head of the Forestry Ministry has been appointed. His name is Dean Eugene Wilson, and he tells me that he returned from the United States with only one goal in mind, that of rebuilding his country.
You just don't start shipping timber out of here or operating concessions in 1 day, 1 month, 3 months. It takes at least 6 months.
There's no stockpiling?
No. I mean, it takes 6 months. If I gave you a concession agreement to build roads, camps, open roads, and organize your money, it takes at least 6 months. So the question I should be asking anyone who says we should wait for the next government is that you're putting the burden of 6 months behind on the new government if you don't start giving people clearances now to operate.
But the lawyer Alfred Brownell has a very different way of looking at it.
Most of the resource areas of this country are controlled by former warring faction leaders. They control the pit sowing, and that is the major timber operation. Now, the danger in that is that if you lift the sanction now, and you have timber companies bringing all that huge equipment, then you have a couple of warring factions who still have the command and control structure for the intact. They will proceed to seize that timber company, and that will be a sufficient asset to destabilize this whole country and destabilize the whole region.
So the situation remains unstable in Liberia, despite recent elections. According to the people, war could break out at any moment. I sincerely hope that the newly elected president can put an end to the influence of rebel groups. Now I'm headed for neighboring Sierra Leone and its capital, Freetown. There, the illegal diamond trade played a crucial role as a source of funding for the Civil War. The wars ended some years ago, and the country seems to be recovering. I pay a visit to Ms. Zainab Bangura, director of the Anti-Corruption Committee.
Is it there?
She was already active during the war, and the rebels wanted her dead. But she's still around. She has a modest office in a lively neighborhood of Freetown.
How are you?
I'm doing well.
Fine, thank you. How are you doing?
Doing well, yeah.
How's everything?
I wondered if we could talk to you a little bit
Okay.
about Sierra Leone.
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay. You know, when there is war, there's a complete breakdown of law and order. And so it's like the law of the jungle. People do whatever they want. Thank you, Pastor. Thank you. A lot of the natural resources. Governments, let me put it this way. Our economy was based more on natural resources and then more important on diamonds. And so when the government lost its control of these areas and other people, and I always say the war in Sierra Leone was fueled by the entry of the international criminal syndicate into our war. When the rebels got hold of the diamond area in Kailao, and so the government lost control of that economy, that's resources from that, and it went into different people, and people made a lot of money, including people who were staying inside the government territory. The border line in between the war, during the war, the rebels were staying on the other side of the river, the government soldiers were staying on the other side of the river, and the river is where you mine the diamond. So how do you tell which is conflict diamond, the same diamond? There's no difference because they mine it from the same river. And people get the diamond, they come and they sell it across here to business people over here on the government side, they buy it, and then that's it. Or they take it on Liberia and sell it. So that money that was gained from those resources was used to buy arms and ammunition to fuel the war. And sometimes the rebels sold the resources in exchange for arms and ammunition. So there's a whole economy that was out of control of the government and was in the control of the rebels and other criminal syndicates that had come to join. This is why now they tell you about the diamonds from Sierra Leone to Liberia that end up with the Hezbollah, and then end up with Al-Qaeda. This was how it went.
In the middle of the diamond region in Koidu, in the interior of Sierra Leone, I have a conversation with former rebel commander Frank Momo Ndovo. He was actively involved in the exploitation of diamonds by the rebels.
I know the RAF actually got millions of dollars out of diamonds. And in fact, in the 2001, they came with 2 Belgian nationals here, and they came purposely for diamond. And I was known to be a member of the RAF at first, and the Internal Defense Unit was my unit. So I was asked to continue in that capacity. And being that I know I cannot deny the fact, I just have to accept. So I was with them still. And those who are responsible for the mining unit just have to do mining, and they cannot do it by themselves until they get people to do it. So people were asked to do it.
Or forced?
Yes, of course.
But forced?
Yes. There were many who were forcing people against their wish, and if you don't want to obey them, they brutalize you.
After the atrocious civil wars in Sierra Leone and Liberia, the international community appointed a special court of justice to persecute the instigators of the war.
The whole war in Sierra Leone, nothing to do with ethnic differences or religious differences or tribal differences. It was all about diamonds. And it's a tragedy that such a valuable commodity has produced quite so much evil in this land.
Have you indicted someone? Is one of the charges against someone?
Well, of course, I mean, if we've indicted Charles Taylor, as you know, the former president of Liberia. He was closely linked to the flow of diamonds from the blood-stained soil of Sierra Leone through his country to all manner of unsavory organizations, including Al-Qaeda.
Come before his presence with singing, enter into his gates with thanksgiving, and into his courts with praise. Be thankful to him and bless his name, for the Lord is good.
You mama will let you down, you papa will let you down, the man of the world will let you down, but Jesus never fails. Money go let you down, you power go let you down, the man of the world will let you down, but Jesus never fails. Jesus never fails. Jesus never fails. The man of the world will let you down, but Jesus never fails.
Papa God, now you are the pray to. Every day, now you are the sing to. God is good all the time.
Suma, tell me, how much do you get from the supporter?
From my supporter?
Yeah.
Well, my supporter is give me 6,000 for a day. 6,000 news. When I have the diamond, I go and buy it on my hand. When I have 5 carats, go and give me 30 million. 5 carats. 30 million.
How is the diamond trade doing in the wake of the war?
What do you see?
I see bubble.
How much do these rough diamonds go for?
I see bubble. I see crack.
How much
Yeah. $2,200 for carat last on number last.
Let me tell you, this is the price you call for this stone, $2,200 per carat. That is the cost price for this. This, I need small profit.
Nothing.
So how much is your maximum on this?
$51,100 maximum.
The next day I visit Kassim Basma, one of the biggest diamond exporters in Sierra Leone. He has a pretty serious bodyguard at the door.
After I examine the diamond, I examine the color, I look it, I negotiate price. Maybe we agree on price, maybe not.
I go meet her. They send her in 2-5 days inside. 2-5, they send her to him by. They say anyone go na bush. They send her to make it.
This is small.
Send her 2-5 in by. Na bush you want go.
How Papa Kassim they buy this?
You know, fee
Papa Kassim.
You get black.
Papa Kassim, Papa Kassim.
1 carat, 89%, correct?
Correct.
150 Aribayam.
How much you know, Papa? You know the guy market will not come to you. Now 2 you be stop. Now 2 you be not. Now we go. He say now 2-5 inside.
Okay.
You see, he say now in 2-5.
No, they get market.
Anyone go na bush.
The big one, small one.
To God, anyone will go na to enforce.
Anything first careful and small one.
You see?
Okay, what I will do, I'll make an 2-3. Okay?
The week before, thieves try to break into Basma's safe. It contains large stacks of cash that he uses to pay miners for their rough diamonds.
You don't business this. Because I want to find this money, you don't need it.
Yes, don't do it. This one just the carry no more.
You don't do 1,250,000. $1,125,000.
1,125,90.
Yes.
2,200,000.
Yes, but now it's try for floor panel. Come this back. This for be 150.
Para for you commission.
Yeah. Okay, put that no more. No, it's not. Not no more.
Enlève this thing et dis quoi.
Once you have the diamonds in here, you bring them to Freetown?
Yes,
by road?
To export, yes, by road.
Isn't it dangerous?
It's dangerous, but we don't have other alternative. No flight. Usually before the war we used to have flight, aircraft, every day, but now we don't have flight.
And once you get to Freetown, what happens with the diamonds?
I export them. Maybe I arrive late in the afternoon. I keep them in my safe. Early morning, I take them to Gigidio for export.
Today, diamonds must have a certificate of origin, which is known as the Kimberley Certificate. Lawrence Ndola Meyers, director of the National Diamond Certification Bureau, explains to me how this works.
This is the last stop on the certification arrangement for the export of diamonds. We have three segments. You have the mining, you have the dealing, then you have the exporters. Basically, we deal with the exporters. They buy their diamonds, they give receipts for the diamonds for control. They report to the Ministry of Mineral Resources at the end of every month their purchases. We, in turn, here review the goods, give a value which is relative to the international market, and in turn, they pay a 3% duty.
This particular stone he was talking about, the price is 2.7 because it's not a first quality, first color. You see, these are all natural deposits. They come from the ground like this. Nothing is perfect. Like you and I have 2 eyes, a nose, and 2 ears. But sometimes I eat pepper, you don't eat pepper. So we're different. See, sometimes the pigmentation is different. But of course, we're all human beings, right? So you might have diamonds in all shapes and forms.
And then, once you get the certificate?
Papers, everything ready, the package seal, take it to the airport, they took it to Brussels.
Who do you sell to? You have a brother in Brussels or a family member?
No, I have something like a partner in Brussels who have his office in Antwerp. The diamond goes to him and we negotiate price, I sell to him.
The Certificate of Origin for diamonds, which is known as the Kimberley Certificate, is there to prevent diamond revenues from being used to finance war. Mark van Bokstael, from the Diamond High Council in Antwerp, Belgium, explains.
Dan heb je een systeem nodig waarbij je een tracking organiseert. Die steen wordt gevolgd. Niet elke steen wordt individueel gevolgd, nee. Men gaat kijken naar alle diamantjes die worden gedolven, bijvoorbeeld in een bepaald gebied, worden doorverkocht aan handelaars. Die handelaars die moeten daarvan een soort geschreven nota maken, waarvan dan een deel terug wordt gevonden in heel hun boekhouding. Voor wat natuurlijk in Afrika boekhoudingen zijn niet wat ze zijn hier, dat is duidelijk. Maar men moet het hele trackingsysteem op poten hebben gesteld en men moet uiteindelijk slagen om het aantal karaten die worden gedolven en in de markt worden gebracht terug te vinden op het ogenblik dat de export moet worden gerealiseerd. En dat wordt dan administratief nagevolgd. Wat betekent natuurlijk dat als je de goederen stuurt uit een mijnproductieland, een diamantproductieland, dat de oorsprong duidelijk is. Het is ongemengd Sierra Leone bijvoorbeeld, of het is ongemengd Guinea, of het is ongemengd Brazilië bijvoorbeeld. Wanneer het hier op de markt is gekomen, de handel op de markt gaat die oorsprong natuurlijk niet als een commercieel element nemen en gaat men eigenlijk qua oorsprong vermenging krijgen. En op dat ogenblik kan u niet meer op het certificaat dat dan wordt afgeleverd in België of in Duitsland of in Groot-Brittannië de originele naam van de mijnplaats kunnen vermelden. Sierra Leone komt er dan niet meer op bijvoorbeeld. Wat wij zonder twijfel als een succes waarmerken, dat is het niveauverschil in handel dat er zich voordeed in Sierra Leone bijvoorbeeld. De officiële handel in Sierra Leone in 1999 bedroeg amper $1,5 miljoen. Is dat cijfer gestegen tot $71 miljoen in 2003. In 2004 hadden we reeds 124 miljoen. En nu heeft men de zaak afgevlacht op 141 miljoen voor 2005.
Back in Freetown, Sierra Leone. The increased revenue from the diamond trade could make the country rich. But do the people in Sierra Leone ever see the profits?
The question is, when these diamonds go out, how much of that money comes into the country? That is one. How much of that money actually is government money? Most of the diamond is owned by private people. In Botswana, the government is a shareholder with De Beer. So when they mine the diamond, the resources that comes from the diamond is also owned by government. Here, the government only get a tax. How much is the tax? So if the government only gets the tax, which is very limited, what happens to them when the diamonds are sold? Does the money come back into the system? Most of the diamond people buy, the money they sell, when they sell those diamonds, it doesn't go into our banking system. It doesn't go into our banking system.
But where does the money go?
I don't know, but it doesn't go into the banking system. You can check with the banks.
Does it go into Switzerland or to other banks?
I don't know, but it doesn't go into the Sierra Leone banking system. Those people, when they take their diamonds out of this country, when they go overseas to sell it, they do not put the money into their banks and get the money comes into our banks. It doesn't.
If you look properly, most of these big houses, huge houses in Freetown, in other area, all from diamond money. All from diamond. But as I say, sometimes a miner can mine, one day he got a big diamond. Sometimes he can mine through his life without getting anything.
The civil wars, both in Sierra Leone and Liberia, have left deep scars. But the state of affairs in Congo isn't all that great either. Rebel groups in northeastern part of the country continue to wage war. In the past 8 years, more than 3 million people have died as a consequence of the war in Congo. I traveled to the northeastern part of the country on a UN plane. I succeed in meeting up with Major General Patrick Kammaert. We've met before at the United Nations in New York. He's now in control of East Congo and is the person to talk to about the current situation in the country.
Ja. Dus zeg het maar. Met jou? Ja. We hebben het, er is een hoop werk hier, hè. En het is een groot gebied. 2,5 keer Frankrijk, mijn gebied. En de hele Congo is zo groot als West-Europa, 4 keer Frankrijk. Dus het is zo verschrikkelijk groot. En daar moet alles door de lucht. Er is geen infrastructuur. Dus alles moet door de lucht. En we zitten hier nu in de oostelijke Congo, waar ik divisiecommandant ben van alle troepen in het oosten. Bijna 15.000 man, vrouw. En bij die troepen moeten we de stabiliteit in het oosten brengen, zodat we straks verkiezingen kunnen hebben. Nou, daartussendoor loopt als een rode draad het feit dat alles draait om de economische belangen. Als je je vinger in de grond steekt, dan haal je diamanten, goud, kobalt, coltraan, you name it, haal je eruit. En daar gaat de deal om. Het is allemaal handje contantje, iedereen is erbij betrokken. De buurlanden zijn erbij betrokken. En dat verstoren wij nu. bijna elke 2 dagen, of zoals tegenwoordig bijna elke dag, hebben we daar toch een grootschalige operatie van zeg maar 300 man sterkte. En dan sluiten we een heel gebied af. En dan wordt het doorzocht op wapens. Dat meestal vrij snel uitmondt in een vuurgevecht. Omdat die militia dat niet toestaan. En dan loopt het in de regel slecht voor ze af. Want we hebben natuurlijk toch een redelijke bewapening bij ons. En we hebben goed geoefende troepen. En dan volgt aan het eind van zo'n schermutseling, worden er of een aantal gevangen genomen of een aantal komen er bij om. En zo kammen we eigenlijk het hele gebied successievelijk uit. Dat wil niet zeggen dat we het lek helemaal boven hebben, om het zo te zeggen. Want er zijn nog steeds een aantal notoren leiders, killers van het eerste uur, die zo glad zijn als paling, waar we achteraan jagen. En ook weer die economische banden, de smokkel in goud en diamanten, dat moeten we doorsnijden. Afgelopen nacht zijn er weer 18 mensen vermoord in een dorp. En 9 zwaar gewond door acties van deze groepering. Die zijn ook op grootschalige wijze plegen die moord en doodslag, verkrachtingen, ontvoeringen, kidnappingen, killings, you name it. En daar treden wij dus elke nacht treden wij daar tegen op.
That evening, I borrow a bulletproof vest and go on patrol with Moroccan UN troops. The UN does what it can, but the illegal mining of gold and diamond continues. Each night, the UN soldiers check people along the road to prevent weapons from being smuggled into the region. All the rebel groups are after gold in northeastern Congo. With money, warlords can buy weapons, and with weapons they increase their power. No wonder there's a war. And for the local population, gold is a curse. They do not benefit in any way from these riches. C'est quoi?
C'est l'or. Merci.
Close to the village of Mongwalu, not far from Bunya, there's an open gold mine. Here, the local population works in tough conditions. It's no secret that the local buyers smuggle the gold out of the country to neighboring Uganda, where it's traded for weapons.
Moi, je me demanderais plutôt qui n'a pas exploité le Congo. Vous me demandez qui a exploité, mais moi, je demanderais qui n'a pas exploité le Congo. Ça, c'est la meilleure des questions. Vous savez que le Congo a toujours été exploité. Et aujourd'hui encore, le Congo est exploité. Par qui? Par toutes les personnes qui ont intérêt.
Qui profite de ces économies?
Vous savez très bien, vous savez mieux que moi, que les trafiquants sont dans tous les pays. Ils sont en Europe, ils sont en Asie, ils sont en Amérique. Il y a tous ces trafiquants. Depuis des années, il y a des personnes qui cherchent là où sont les richesses. Ils n'hésitent pas à tuer pour les prendre. Vous le savez aussi bien que moi. À Bunya, nous n'avons aucune usine pour la fabrication des armes. Mais qui les fabrique? Vous le savez?
Les armes d'ici viennent d'un pays spécifiquement?
Oui, ça vient... Bon, je sais que ça vient de pays voisins, mais ça vient aussi de chez vous, de l'Europe, de partout. Parce que partout, il y a des trafiquants qui vendent les armes. Parce que cela rapporte beaucoup d'argent. Alors, les personnes donnent de l'or pour avoir des armes. Les personnes qui veulent avoir l'argent de n'importe quelle façon, c'est très intéressant pour eux.
In Congo, it's not only about gold and diamonds. Other minerals, such as cobalt and coltan, bring in a lot of money and are also used to finance war. In Lubumbashi, in the southeast of Congo, there's a gigantic hill left over from the state mining company Gécamines. But this hill is still full of valuable cobalt. The army of the late warlord Laurent Kabila used the revenues from cobalt to finance wars against its neighbors, Rwanda and Uganda. Today, private mining companies such as the Belgian firm Forest buy the most lucrative pieces of the state mines for next to nothing.
Ces ressources dans ces régions a financé la guerre?
Non, moi je crois qu'il faut faire la part des choses. Quand un pays avec un gouvernement qui est légalement établi, qui est légalement reconnu, est attaqué, c'est normal que le gouvernement utilise les ressources qu'il a à sa disposition pour faire la guerre, pour bouter hors du territoire les ennemis et les gens qui envahissent. Mais c'est différent avec quelqu'un qui vient faire la guerre pour prendre les richesses et financer la guerre, comme on a vu dans d'autres parties du pays. Ça c'est différent, ou dans d'autres parties du continent, ou dans d'autres parties du monde. Ça se fait un peu partout, que des rebelles, que des agresseurs viennent, prennent possession de certaines richesses minières et commencent à financer la guerre. C'est différent de ce qui s'est passé ici, où le gouvernement légalement établi a utilisé les ressources qu'il avait à sa disposition pour répondre aux besoins de la guerre.
Vous avez dit que c'est un gouvernement légal. C'est pourquoi légal?
Non, parce que si on prend l'exemple du Congo, le gouvernement qui était là était un gouvernement légalement établi. Un matin, il y a un groupe de gens qui se réveillent, qui disent « Nous, on veut faire la guerre au gouvernement » pour des raisons qu'eux seuls connaissent. À ce moment-là, je considère que le gouvernement qui était en place était un gouvernement légal.
Mais c'était un gouvernement qui fonctionnait bien? Représentant du peuple, vraiment?
Représentant du peuple ou pas, ça c'est un autre problème. Mais il est légal dans la mesure où il a été accepté, il a été mis en place d'une façon tout à fait régulière.
President Kabila was promoted as a legitimate leader by his supporters. But just like the other rebel leaders, he was a warlord who came to power through violence. UN experts have tried to tackle the role of companies who make a profit during the wars in Africa. They have written a critical report. In Brussels, Belgium, I talked with Marc-Olivier Herman, a specialist on Africa. In his mind, that UN report was somewhat problematic.
Er zijn een aantal VN-rapporten van VN-experten over de problematiek van oorlog en natuurlijke rijkdom. En die rapporten hebben lijsten van bedrijven gepubliceerd die in verdenking zijn gebracht van onkuise praktijken. En daaronder zijn er een 12-tal Belgische bedrijven genoemd. In het eerste rapport van de VN ging het over het toebehoren tot wat de VN noemde elite-netwerken. Dat zijn netwerken die gemengd samengesteld zijn. Dus politieke actoren, economische actoren en militaire actoren samenbrengen. En die netwerken vormen een soort kartel. Die elite-netwerken samenspanden om geld te genereren die kon gebruikt worden om oorlog te voeren. En omgekeerd, om hun oorlogsmachine in te zetten om hun economische belangen veilig te stellen.
We all benefit from these economic interests. Tropical wood, gold, diamonds and cobalt are but a few examples of the resources we extract from Africa.
Zouden we één kunnen zien?
Back in the Netherlands, I visit a cell phone store. Surprisingly enough, nobody can tell me what cell phone batteries are made of.
Dat is de accu. Staat er ook in waar het gemaakt is? Hongarije?
Ja.
Staat er ook in wat er allemaal in zit?
Op zo'n batterij,
Ja.
wat erin zit? Nee.
Waar wordt zo'n batterij van gemaakt? Weet u dat?
Nou, dat zou ik aan mijn collega moeten vragen.
Ja.
Want, die van de technische dienst die hebben daar wat meer kijk op. Is een batterij bijvoorbeeld van gemaakt?
Waar een batterij van gemaakt is, heb ik echt geen idee van waar
Nee?
het van gemaakt is. Ja, dat is per batterij is het bijna verschillend uit wat voor land die komt. Het is Hongarije vaak, Finland staat er soms op omdat het gewoon Nokia is. China zie je vaak zat.
To make batteries for cell phones and laptops, you need cobalt. And that comes from this hill.
Ici, il y a 1 à 1,5% de cobalt, ici, contenu dans la scorie. C'est entre 1/7 et 1/8 de la production mondiale du cobalt.
Et ça veut dire que dans tous les piles et toutes les choses, il y a une grande chance.
Il y a beaucoup de chances, effectivement. Il y a une chance sur 10 de trouver du cobalt qui vient d'ici. Le gouvernement reçoit tout ce qu'il y a comme fiscalité qui sort de l'exploitation d'une usine comme celle-ci. Il y a toute une fiscalité et quand il y a une concession, le gouvernement reçoit des royalties sous forme de taxes minières. Le gouvernement reçoit aussi, dans certains cas, des pourcentages qui vont jusqu'à 5% du capital de certaines sociétés.
Et en total, c'est combien, plus ou moins, en dollars par an qu'il reçoit?
Je ne saurais pas vous dire parce qu'on ne sait pas enregistrer toute l'activité minière aujourd'hui.
Et pourquoi pas?
Il y a beaucoup d'informels.
Les miniers informels.
Il y a beaucoup d'activités qui ne passent pas par le secteur formel, qui n'est pas enregistré.
Now that the state mines are stripped and sold in pieces, unemployed mine workers are forced to make a living in these dire circumstances. On their own initiative, they search for cobalt, which they then sell to wholesalers for a meager price, who in turn export it to us. Often, the pits cave in and people die. Children also help to dig for cobalt. They drag bags of mineral-rich earth through the scorching heat and transport it by bike down the road to sift through it. Africa, a rich continent, has fallen prey to war and looting. There are enormous economic interests at stake, and both foreign companies and local elites profit. What can be done about this?
I think the whole African continent, one of the biggest problems we have is impunity. That people feel they can do anything and get away with it, whether they are politicians or whoever they are. That is one thing in Africa that we have to address. And I think the courts has made people to believe that as a leader, you take responsibility. As president, you should take responsibility when your ministers are corrupt. If you don't have appropriate rules and guidelines, you have corrupt institutions and structures, you have corrupt civil society, you have too much bottleneck and bureaucracy. How can you expect the business people to do the same thing? But this is the world. The human being, I believe the human being generally is very selfish. You always want to get the best for yourself. Whether you are black, you are white, whatever you are. If you're a businessman, profits is your first priority. The issue of morality doesn't come into it. Of course, for Europeans, they know that you have the OECD convention. If you go to a foreign country and you bribe and your government gets to know about it, you are charged. So you have an obligation as far as that is concerned. But you can come to Africa and bribe because the African people accept it. You know if you don't bribe, you lose. And there are very few people that can take that risk. Because profit is what business people care about.
Er is hun alles gelegen dat het zo troebel mogelijk is. Hoe meer er gevochten, er dit, er geloot, er dit wordt, hoe beter het voor hun is. Want zij kunnen dan ongestoord doorgaan met hun eigen business. Als hier rust en stabiliteit komt, is dat niet in hun belang.
De Canadezen willen een stuk van de koek, de Belgen, de Amerikanen, de Israëli's. Het is de verantwoordelijkheid om toe te zien op die economische beslissingen. Om toe te zien dat de belangen van het land verdedigd worden, veiliggesteld worden. Want anders zitten wij als westerse belastingbetaler ontwikkelingshulp te geven, humanitaire hulp te geven in een bodemloze vat.
War is business. If we, consumers in the West, would know where raw materials come from and refuse to accept any that do harm, then a wrench would be thrown into the mechanisms of these war economies. African riches should give countries in Africa a chance to finance their own development, and its people a chance to make a respectable living. If we, the buyers of diamonds or tropical wood, and the users of raw materials for our cell phone and laptop batteries, would ask ourselves where these products come from, perhaps we would be more aware of where our money goes. It's always good to know. And at least we're taking a step in the right direction.
Mama, mommy, they fly.